Spade back here with you, High Noon Leatherworks, for another leather adventure. And today we're going to do a project on a chain wallet. So it's going to have a place for bills and cards. And the thing about this one is I'm going to do this without any stitching. So I'm going to use all rivets, and it'll make it much quicker, and we'll see how it turns out. So I've never done this before, so I thought I'd go ahead and try it. I've done it with stitching one, but never with just rivets. So come on in and let's get started. We've got the overhead shot on today, and I went ahead and I took the time to, before I started recording, to make me a pattern. And what I ended up with was 4 separate pieces. The main body of the wallet, and I'll go ahead and give you the dimensions of that real quick. That is 10.5 by 7.5. Then the strap that will actually snap to the belt that'll hold the chain, that piece is 6 3/4 inches long by 1 inch wide. You've got the 2 inside panels. You put bills on the back side or the front side, and then cards go down between these 2 panels. The small panel in the front is 2 5/8 by 7.5, and the back one is 3 1/4 by 7.5. So that gives you all the measurements for the 4 pieces of my pattern that I cut out. Then what I did was I just put all this together, divided it up the way I wanted it to fold over to get a finished look. I left a little reveal here. I didn't want it to be totally even, but I didn't want to. Some of them you'll see they leave a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch reveal. I just left just a little bit, maybe 1/8 of an inch, if that, just to give it a finished look. Then I measured out my snaps and my rivets. So that may vary depending on how you want to do it. I did put my snaps centered from the hole 5/8 of an inch up from the edge, and then I placed them 1 3/4 center from each side in. That's just where I placed mine. So once I had all my pieces cut, I laid those 3 pieces together and then laid out where I wanted my rivets to go. And I am going to put 1 extra rivet in the inside 2 pieces on each side. I'm going to put some rivets down the middle here for the card slots so they won't be so sloppy, and then it'll leave a small slot in the center if you want to like carry an extra key or something with you, house key or something like that. That didn't make a good slot for that. And then I put a hardware list on here: 8 5/16 rivets, 6 3/8 inch rivets because of the thickness of the leather that'll be going together, 2 snap sets, and 1 1 1/4 split ring or key ring. And that's what's gonna attach this piece to the wallet. Now, I didn't include my other snap for this piece, so that's another piece of hardware that I'm going to need to have, is one more snap set for this. So the hardware on this is one snap set. The hardware on this is two. So that's the hardware that I need. The way I came up with exactly what I was going to need was I took some little pieces of scrap off of the material, the leather material that I'm going to use for this project, and cut them and punched them, and then I went ahead and took a 5/16 rivet and a 3/8 rivet, and that's how I came up with the size of rivets that I was going to need. So I kind of did a little trial and error to make sure that I was going to have the correct hardware. Then what I did was I pulled out some scrap black. I bought this in a booth at a flea market, and this leather company was local, and they have booths around our area that has rolls, and I'll show you what they have rolls of scrap in different colors, and the roll I bought had several colors in it. Most of it's all pre-dyed, which is fine. That way I don't have to dye this. So I'm going to make it black. I'm going to use silver hardware. Here's the piece that I'm going to use for the outside, or the large portion of the wallet. And then I'm going to use this piece for the insides, the inside two pieces. This piece is a little softer, a little more pliable. This is a little harder. I can't really say by looking at it. I'd say, I'm going to guess maybe 5-ounce leather, but this one's just softer, and I thought that would be much better, especially for the inside to put your cards in and out of. So enough talking, I'll go ahead and get started on this. So on this piece here, we can go ahead and put our pattern down, and I'll just trace. Even though it's already pre-dyed black, I can see my black ink lines, and you can use whatever you want to use, or if you just want to cut it with your pattern and a straight edge, I guess you could do that too. However you want to do it. But I can see my lines. I like to put my lines on there. It makes me feel like I'm keeps me from making mistakes. So I'll go through, I'll mark all my rivet holes also. I punch those out with the exact same punch I'm going to use when I make my pattern. That way I don't have to measure on my leather and hope that my holes fit. I know they're going to match. So there's all my markings for this piece. And I did mark on the pattern, I did mark front on all the pieces, so I knew that they'd be facing me, so that I'd be using the front would be the finished side of the leather. So let's go ahead and take a nice sharp knife and use my straight edge on my line. And again, this is pretty soft material, so it cuts pretty easy too. That ink from my pen transferring to this under these LED lights, and that's why sometimes in my videos you'll see flashes or flickering. My lights aren't flickering, but that's what these LED lights do to the camera. And I'm not sure, I haven't really researched that much, but I know it's the LED lights that's doing that. So I didn't go ahead and tell you, I bought this. I told you I bought it at a flea market in a booth. And I gave $40 for, I ended up with 3 rolls of really nice sized pieces of different color leather and a bunch of smaller scraps that I put in my scrap bin to make projects with. So I got a lot of leather for $40. I thought it was well worth it. And you can see I'm going to have some smaller scraps that I can throw away. And then I do like, I've used this for a little while now, and it's just a little poly cutting board, real cheap, and it seems to do a real good job on my punching. Doesn't seem to dull my tools, and I can punch right through that material. I was using another piece of leather for a backer when I did my punching, and this really cuts the time down on punching because it goes through much better, much quicker than using another piece of scrap leather behind it. I've tried doing it on my self-healing mat. It seems to tear those up pretty good, so I try to stray away from those just because these poly cutting boards are fairly cheap. These cutting mats, you get nice ones, they're not cheap. So I can replace this poly cutting board many times over for what I'm paying for a nice self-healing mat. And you notice most of these I'm just hitting it one time. And it's going right through. And then I will take, to try to keep my area a little cleaner, I'll take a stylus or a sharp object and I'll clean out my punch between pieces. And I got this small little plastic cup with a lid at the dollar store. Probably got 6 of them in a package for $1, and it kind of keeps my area cleaned up and I don't have those little pieces laying all over the place. So there's our first piece, and again that is the inside and that's the back piece. So that goes, that's this piece here, and then here's the front piece that I'll cut next, and that'll go on top of that. Now I did leave on these 2 pieces, the front piece, I gave you the measurements earlier, the front piece is a 1/2 inch shorter, or approximately a 1/2 inch shorter than the back. And what that does, the reason it's 1/2 inch shorter is that allows for you to be able to grab your cards and pull them out easy. If I made them the same height, then it would be really hard to find or get that open to pull your cards out. So this will allow you to get your finger in there and your thumb and pull those cards out. So there's the inside back piece. Now let's take the same piece of leather, scrap leather that I had, that I cut this piece out of, and I think I might have enough to do this piece, and it looks like I will, just barely. So I'll get quite a bit, two nice sized pieces just out of this scrap piece. And unless I'm doing a large holster or something like that where I really need a nice piece, you know, people are gonna see it, then I normally try not to cut off of a nice clean new piece of leather if I've got any type of scrap that I can use. Now if I'm doing a bag or something like that where I don't want any imperfections in the leather, or you're going to actually see the leather, then I will cut a fresh piece. So there's my lines for this side, and this does have a little where they've had it folded for quite a while, so I want to make sure that I get that flat when I cut it. But these inked lines show up really nice on this black dyed leather. It's almost like a red, the way it shines off of those LED lights. So it really shows up nice. And I do have, my ruler does have a corked back to it, and I do like that when you're cutting the softer leather because it really holds it nice and snug. Doesn't allow your leather to twist while you're cutting it. And I'm using this cutting board this time instead of the self-healing mat because it works for that too, and it doesn't dull your knife blade. I actually ran across some of these cutting boards, these poly cutting boards, not lately. This has been about a year ago. I ran across some of them at Walmart, and they weren't real thick, but they were, oh, they were 1/8 of an inch thick. They were plenty thick enough for this, and they were a little bit bigger than this one, and they had them on sale for 98 cents. So I bought like 4 of them. Same thing, now I've got my piece cut out. And go ahead and punch my holes. And there's some of these holes that will be riveted, or these pieces that'll be riveted together before I actually put it together with the outside part of the wallet. And you notice I'm not hitting this hard at all. So it makes a real nice backing to do your punching on. So there's the front piece. My phone's ringing. Alright, there's the front piece of the card and bill holder. So there's the two pieces for the inside. So we'll set those aside, and then get rid of this out of our way, the scrap. Don't need these two pieces of pattern anymore. Let's see about, I don't think I have enough scrap. I may have to try to use it out of the other one. Yeah, I don't have a big enough piece left out of that for the strap that goes around the belt. So we'll move that aside and we'll use it out of this piece here. Should have a piece big enough. So let's go ahead and move to this piece, and let's get our big piece of our pattern. Make sure that I lay it down with it saying front, outside, pointing to me. And I want to try to make as much use out of this here as I can. Take my pen, go ahead and draw or mark around my pattern. And then I want to make sure before I move that I mark all my holes for my rivets and my snaps, because I have snap holes in here also. Now they're the same size. I use the same punch for my rivets as I do my snaps. So I want to make sure I get all those marked before I lift up my pattern. So there's that piece. And I will go ahead and use a straight edge on it also. And I did put a fresh blade in this knife before I started, so it is good and sharp. And like I said, this is about 5 ounce, I'm guessing, about 5 ounce leather, so it cuts pretty nice. So we'll take that, set it aside, and keep our piece that we need to finish cutting. And continue cutting this piece out. And you can tell it's been kind of rolled up, so it's got a natural curve to it, but that's okay. That's the way I want my wallet to fold anyway. And then on the outside part, right here where it'll fold like this, so that'll end up being the outside. I did just make a slight radius. On the corners. I didn't want it to be perfectly square, so I made a very small radius on the corners, just on that piece. So I'll cut that radius. Move those scraps, and again, I like this little piece. It keeps my work area cleaned off, keeps that stuff out of my way. I don't know why I didn't think of that sooner. But then I'll bring my poly board back in, and I can do my punching on this piece. Do it for my snaps. Now, like I mentioned before, this one's a little stiffer. May take a little more force to punch through compared to the soft or softer piece that I had for the inside. Clean my punch out so I don't get those and I like to punch. When I punch, I try to punch with these closer to me so I don't reach way out. Seems like I have more accuracy doing that. And more control of the punch with my mallet. Alright, there's those pieces. Again, I'll clean my punch out real quick. And we'll have to use that again on the strap. Set that aside. So that piece is finished as far as cutting it out. I've got my holes in for my rivets. I've got my holes in for my snaps. So we can set that aside with the other two pieces. And then the only thing they have left is this strap that straps it to your belt. So let's take the piece that I just cut that large piece out of. This is what I had left over. It looks like I have plenty. So I'm going to cut this right here. And that leaves me a fairly decent sized piece here. Put that in the scrap bin because I'll use that for something else for sure. Now I can take my pen. Again, I have it marked, my pattern marked front. And on this one, I've got a nice straight edge here to start with. So So this way I only have to cut one long edge. Mark that. Mark my 3 holes. I have 3 holes for my snap this time instead of 2 because the bottom of it folds over to hold the ring. So I could go ahead and cut that out. Again, it has radiuses on both ends and they are different. Just no specific reason. I just didn't want the part that folded under and held the ring. I didn't really want it to be rounded like the other end that you'll see when you snap it. And that's just a personal preference thing. So there's that piece. Again, end up with a nice little piece of scrap. Put it in my scrap bin. I'll save that. Definitely use it for something. Come around and cut the radius on this end. If I have a pretty sharp radius, I normally don't try to cut it all in one cut. So there's the scrap from that. We'll throw that away, just tiny pieces. And then I need to put my holes. For my snap and my ring. And then there's all my pieces. So I've got my large piece, the main piece. I've got my 2 smaller inside pieces for it's going to make the bill and card holder, and then I've got my strap. And then I'll hang on to all my pattern pieces, keep them together because I've got the exact spot where I want them to fold. So I'll hang on to those. So there's all my pieces ready to put my chain wallet together. We're ready for the next step. So let's get our granite piece out. We'll use that for a nice solid surface to do our riveting and snap setting on. I am going to take a look at this because I know I need to put some of the snaps on these inside pieces first before I put it all together. So I want to make sure that I have this set up correctly. So I'll put those 2 pieces go like that. So I'll get out my hardware kit, and I just use these little sectioned off plastic boxes. Actually bought them from Bass Pro Shop. They had them on sale one time, and I think you got like a 3-pack of them for $6 or something. They were real cheap. So, and they're nice because you can divide them off in different sections and keep all your hardware separated and organized. So I want to make sure that I get my rivet setter. And something else that I marked on my pattern when I did it was what size rivets go where. So I've got this set up to where I've got these center rivets are all 5/16, and the top, right, and left rivets are 5/16. And that is because when I put this inside here, the rest of those holes are going to go through this leather too. 2 thicknesses, so 4 total once I fold that over. So that is set up so that I can use 3/8 inch rivets through the 4 thicknesses and just 5/16 rivets through the 2 thicknesses. So I kind of have to take a look at that. I got to put these in before I set this in, and then I'll want to make sure that I put these top, right, and left in also. So there will be 1, 2, 3 holding these together down the side on each side, and those will be 3/8 inch rivets. So I'll set this aside, and I'm gonna use 5/16, and I need 8 of those. So I'll need 8 rivets, 8 caps, there's 5 caps, 4 rivets, 6, 7, 8 caps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 rivets. So I've got my rivets, got my caps. I am going to turn this cap setter over and use the dished side. Sometimes when I do rivets, I'll do the flat side, but I'm going to do the dished side this time. I'm going to put my rivet through in these center holes first. Put my cap on. And then I want to make sure as I do this, I keep these 2 pieces lined up where those holes are, so that transfer over to the holes that are in the larger piece. So I'm going to come down here to the opposite corner to put the next rivet in, and then I'll move side to side, but I want to make sure I try to keep this square as possible. Grab a cap, push it down snug on the rivet, and at that point I could just go side to side, start putting my rivets in the rest of these holes, And make sure as I go through it, you can have your pattern. If you mark your pattern like I did, that way as a reference, make sure you don't get the wrong size rivet in there. And I'm not hitting that super hard either. And again, one of the main reasons I'm trying these rivets, or doing the rivets instead of the stitching, is just to save time. Same way with the pre-dyed leather. I bought it black so I didn't have to worry about dyeing it or anything. And then I may have to clean up these holes right here. Might have stretched a little bit. Make sure all those line up good. Then I can continue setting the rest of my rivets. And this should keep this center part of these two pieces nice and sturdy. If you're sliding cards in and out, and I believe I had at one time, here's a Tandy leather gift card that's used. I keep those around just for that purpose. But when we get the end on there, you'll see how you can see how I've cut this a little shorter than the back piece so that you can actually get a hold of your cards real easily to pull them out and put them back in. So we'll hang on to that until we get the outside rivets in. And again, I'm going to double check this. That's good. To make sure I know which one of these outside holes I put my 5/16 in, and that's just to hold this top because it's shorter than the back piece. Turn it over or around, put my last 5/16 rivet in. And there's the inside done. It's ready to go into the outside part. There's the card, and you can see, and this leather is soft enough that that's gonna stretch. You can see I can even put my finger in there. So that's going to stretch out a little bit. It holds one card just fine, but if you wanted to put multiple cards in there, it'd be no problem. And you got two sides to put cards, driver's license, anything like that. Easy to get to, easy to pull in and out. So there's the inside piece complete, or semi-complete. Then I need, look at my hardware list, and I need 6 3/8 rivets, and that's attaching this to the other piece. So I'll need 6 rivets, 6 caps, and I just bought some more of the 3/8, so that little container section of that container is pretty full. I think it comes with 100 sets, how I bought it. So there's 6. I need 2 more caps. And then that'll complete my 6 sets that I need. So let's take this piece, make sure that we have the top here, make sure we're not covering up anything, any other holes that we need. Like we'll set the snaps in here too. So I'll line up my first hole, put my rivet through, make sure the rest of my holes line up, because once I fold that other piece over, if I needed to clean any of those holes out or anything, in fact, I'm going to put this second rivet through the top hole. And then double check and make sure that my holes line up. And I might need to clean that one out just a little bit, because once you start folding this leather, laying it on top of one another, then you do sometimes get a little stretching, or so I do need to set that. Make sure it's good and clean, and it lines up good. There we go. I need to clean this side out a little bit. And I'll replace those rivets back in there. This is where if we fold this over and we set those first 2 rivets, then we won't be able to get to our snaps that we have to put in here. So we want to make sure that We want to make sure we put our snaps in first. See, if I'd have done this first, I would have messed that up. So pull those back out. And that's why it's good for me to double check everything before I start hammering. So I'll get my snap setting tool out, get my snap pieces. Need 2 males, 2 females, a backer for the male, and the finished snap. I use it on the female side. So that's the one that you're going to see. So I'll separate those. So on this, that snap is going to be right here. The male part will be here. So I want that in this hole. And I may need to use my stylus and clean that hole up from the inside where this pushes through. And then it should push right through. So there you go. I will use the setting tool, use the flat part. Take the male part of the snap. And then take the setter. Set that good and tight. Take my second one, move over to it. Set that good and tight. I always double check them, make sure they're solid. They are. And then double check my holes are all going to line up again. And here's one that didn't get cleaned out really good when I did my punching, so let me clean that one out before I move on. There we go. So just double check everything. And then I want those holes to line up. So I can do both sides, making sure those holes line up, and they do. And then I'll push down on that so I kind of get a little bit of a crease in that leather. You could moisten that also and make it fold real easy. And you could put some weight on top of it or something. So as I have those holes lined up, I'm just going to tap on that so that it gives me a natural fold there now on that crease, because I have to put this inside. So I'll take one of my rivets, put it through back side of the hole, line it up through the 2 thicknesses of the inside piece, the card holder, such, then I need to stretch that as much as I can over that so I can get that lined up. And that lines that piece up right there. And it sticks through the hole. Get my setter. Take my cap. Push my cap on my rivet. I need to make sure that that cap gets on there nice and tight. Because I'm going through 4 thicknesses of that now. And that rivet's going to have some pressure on it because of that fold. And then set your rivet. That one is the one on the fold is the most important one. So then when I come over to the other side, it's probably even going to be a little more difficult. Let's put that rivet in from the back. Oh no, that was much easier. Fold it over. Squeeze it down. Put it on the setter. Put my cap on. Make sure it's on good and tight, good and square. Take my setting tool. Make sure it's all right. So got the bottom 2 rivets in. All right, I'm ready to go to the next rivet. Make sure it's pushed all the way through. Now I've got 4 thicknesses here. These 3/8 are working perfect for this, but it's fairly lightweight leather. Alright, my battery went dead on me, so I had to charge it up. And I went ahead, while it was charging up, finished putting in the rivets. And then something I didn't mention before on the pattern was putting in a grommet, metal grommet right here in the corner. It doesn't interfere with the fold. It's still on the back side of the wallet, but I needed a grommet in there to put my chain. So this part, other than my snaps, I need to finish my snaps, so I'll put that in, put my cupped part of my setter there. Make sure that's nice and tight, like those nice and snug. Put the second one in. And then I can pull that over. Snap my wallet. So there's my snaps. I've got all my rivets in on both sides. You cannot see the rivets on the front when it's closed. Got my grommet in for my chain. So let's unsnap that, open it up. Then when it's open, you can see the rest of the rivets. But when it's closed, you can only see the ones on the back. So it makes for a real nice finished wallet. So let's go ahead and do the piece for the belt. And the two holes, the end that has the two holes close together is going to be for the D-ring, or in this case I've got a key ring, and that's going to be the male part of the snap. So I'll get that out, and then the other hole will be the finished side of the snap. So we'll put the ring in there, fold it over, put the back part of the snap through, it's nice and snug. Take the back of my setter and push that down a little bit. Set that on the flat side of my setting tool. Put the male part of the snap on. I need to make sure I push that down. Get that pushed down all the way. You use the back end of I'm going to pull that using the back side of these small needle nose, so I can get that top piece of leather pushed all the way down. There we go. Now I can put it on top of my setting tool. Make sure it's pushed down all the way. Snug fit, but that's a pretty good sized ring on there. That leather will stretch around it, so. And then I'm going to turn that ring so that the opening of the key ring is inside the leather, so you can't see it. So it looks like you have a nice smooth round ring. On this side, I want to make sure that we put snap in from finish side. And I'm going to flip that over so I have my cupped side of the setter. Alright, so there is the part that hooks to the belt, and then got a hook, just a snap hook on this end, hooked to the chain, and then I'll take a small pair of needle nose, squeeze that down and fit that right around that grommet. Release that. Now I've got my chain hooked on there, secure, and now I can go ahead and snap. And these snaps, as you work them, if you ever worked with them, they work really well after 2 or 3 times that you snap them and then open them. Then they work much better. There we go. So I can take my mallet, flatten out that fold, and there's the finished product. So there we have a finished product of the chain wallet. It's nice and sturdy. It's going to last a long time. You look inside, there's the card holders, one on each side. Got the bill holder here and a bill holder in the front also. So hold quite a bit. As I said, the more you use these snaps, already they're getting easier to close. So if someone wanted to, they could shorten this up quite a bit. You'd place it on your belt here, and then you're going to wear this in your back pocket. Somebody might want to shorten this chain up a little bit. Real easy to do because of the ring that I put on there. Or you could shorten it up on the clip side. Either way you want to, you could do it on either end. So, nice little project. Doesn't take a lot of material, a little bit of hardware, and some time to make your pattern. But it's just whatever you want to do. If you want to do the long wallet, you could do the same thing with the short wallet, about half that size. That is a normal size wallet for a pocket, and then you could flip this over and snap it, or just leave it folded over and put it in your pocket. So there's all kinds of things you can do without actually having to stitch it. So thanks for coming along. Hope you enjoyed it. If you try it, good luck. And as I always say, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.